Hey, how's it going everybody? Welcome back to Aussie Fish Keeping. So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the top 7 best dither fish that you can get for your aquarium. So in one of my previous videos, I'm not too sure how long ago it was, I talked about why you need dither fish in your aquarium. And this video is sort of a follow-up video. So in that video, I obviously talk about some of the benefits of having dither fish. And in this video, I'm going to be giving you 7 great dither fish that you can use in your aquarium. So all 7 of these fish are super peaceful. Most of them are very active and they're all very easy to care for as well. But yeah, I guess with that being said, without any further ado, let's just jump straight into today's video with the first dither fish on our list. So as for the first one on our list, this is a fish I talk about a lot on my channel, and that's Denios. So Denios are a great, super small, super active aquarium fish. They're very top dwelling and they're always going to be moving around in your aquarium. So as you can see behind me, I've got some in this tank and they only really stay up that top sort of portion. And like I said, they're always going to be moving, so they're very active. They swim around a lot in your aquarium and they're really great at diverting attention from other more aggressive fish. So if you have maybe some sort of dwarf cichlid in your aquarium, which is actually what I keep these guys with, but if you have some sort of dwarf cichlid and you have either another dwarf cichlid like a female, maybe you have a pair, or you have another species of fish in there that's very shy and I guess fragile, the Denios are great to throw in just because they'll get the attention of those dwarf cichlids a little bit more, and that means that they're going to take the aggression and that can help minimize the stress on the other more shy fish in your aquarium. So I will say, obviously you are using them to sort of divert the aggression, although because they're super fast they can't really get picked on too much, and because you're keeping them in large schools and obviously their pattern helps a lot with that, it's super hard for a more aggressive fish to actually select out one Denio and just pick on it. So that's why it's best to keep these guys in a school if you are wanting to use them as dither fish. So obviously they're a great dither fish just because they can divert the aggression, but they're also very peaceful as well, so they're not going to be aggressive to anything else in your aquarium. I will say they can be a little bit nippy, particularly on long fin fish like swordtails or guppies, but if you have the long fin Denios, which is what I got back here, those long fins slow them down a little bit and they're not really as nippy, although that can mean they aren't as good of a dither fish just because they're a lot slower and they can be picked on a lot easier. But yeah, for the most part, they're relatively peaceful fish and they're not really going to cause too much disturbance in your aquarium. As for the water parameters for these guys, they are super easy to care for. So you're going to want to have these guys in a temperature of about 22 to 26 degrees Celsius, which is about 72 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit. And you're going to want a pH of about 6.5 to 7.5. So I will just quickly say they will go unheated and they'll go in much lower temperatures than the 22 degrees Celsius, but I do find they do best in heated, as most fish do. I mean, a lot of those tropical fish do prefer the warmer water. Although if you don't have a heater, it's nothing really to worry about. As long as it doesn't get too cold, say below 18 degrees in your aquarium, then they should be fine. But yeah, with that being said, Denios are a great dither fish and I'd highly recommend them for your aquarium. Moving on to the next group of fish on our list, we have one that's super similar to the Denios, and that's tetras. So obviously there's hundreds and hundreds of different species of tetras out there. You can get big tetras, small tetras, South American tetras, African tetras. There is literally so many tetras out there, and pretty much all of them make great dither fish for your aquarium. So obviously the most common tetra is the neon tetra. They're literally sold everywhere. You can go into basically any pet shop or fish store and find them, and they are a great dither fish, particularly if you do keep them in the larger schools, much like the Denios. And they'll do basically the same thing, so they'll just divert aggression or attention from those more shy fish onto them, and that will mean your aquarium is a much safer environment for those shy fish. And because of their color, this can actually help a little bit as well. So they're obviously very striking and vibrant in coloration, which means they can gain a little bit more attention than just the plain Denios. The good thing about tetras, particularly neon tetras, is they're not as nippy as Denios in my opinion, so you can keep them with things like guppies and swordtails as well, and they won't really nip at fins or things like that. And for the most part, they're just going to mind their own business and swim around like near the top of your aquarium as well. One thing I would recommend with these guys is making sure there's plenty of swim space in your aquarium, so it is definitely great to throw on a few plants and a few like obstacles in your aquarium, so things like wood and rocks. But it definitely is also vital to have swim space, just because they are an open water swimmer, and when they're in big schools out in the wild, they do swim in that open water column. So it's great to try and simulate that in your aquarium. So keeping them in large schools with plenty of swim space, but also plenty of aquarium plants for them to hide in as well, is definitely vital. As for water parameters for these guys, you're gonna want a temperature of about 22 to 26 degrees Celsius, which once again is about 72 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit. And you're gonna want a pH anywhere between 6 to 7. So because there is so many different types of tetras out there, you're gonna need to do a little bit more research on like the specific species you're wanting to get. But for the most part, those parameters should suit a lot of them. And I will also just say a lot of tetras, particularly South American tetras, can go in that lower pH as well. So cardinal tetras are a great one for super low pH. And there's obviously a whole variety of other tetras that go in high pH, low pH, high temperature. But yeah, with that being said, tetras as a whole do make great dither fish for your aquarium. Moving on to the next species of fish on our list, we actually have a live bearer. We have Endlers. So Endlers are one of my favorite little live bearers. They're basically a small guppy. They don't have the long flowing fins like guppies do, but they do definitely have some awesome vibrant colors, and they do make great dither fish. So some of the reasons they make great dither fish in my opinion is, number one, they're very hardy. Number two, they're very fast and active, so they can get away from fish if they're being picked on a little bit too much. And they're very vibrant in coloration as well, which, much like the neon tetras, can gain a little bit more attention on them. And they're also very small, so they can be used as a dither fish in a very small aquarium, but the small size also helps them get away and hide in smaller spaces, which can mean that they can deal with a lot more aggression than the other species. As well as that, these guys are by far one of the most peaceful aquarium fish out there, so I keep mine with cherry shrimp and they never have any issues. You can keep them with basically anything that's the same sort of size as them, a little bit bigger. You don't want to keep them with anything that has a mouth big enough to eat them, just because, I mean, they will eat them. But for the most part, most of those small tropical aquarium fish should go fine with them. So as for the water parameters for these guys, like I said, they're super easy to care for. So about 22 to 26 degrees Celsius, which is about 72 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit. And you're going to want a pH anywhere between 6.5 to 8. So because these guys are a live bearer, they do prefer the high pHs, although Endlers are very hardy, like I said, so they can go in a wide variety of pHs and temperatures. These are another one you can keep unheated, as long as it doesn't get too cold where you live. But yeah, with that being said, Endlers are another great dither fish, and I would highly recommend them. Moving on to the next species of fish on our list, we actually have a catfish. We have Corydoras. So Corydoras are another great little active aquarium fish. These guys are obviously bottom dwellers, which means they do stay around that bottom section of your aquarium a lot. So Corydoras are a little bit bigger than the other fish on this list, which means they can take a little bit more of a beating. They also are, I guess, an armored catfish, so they do have armor platings along their body, which can help a lot if they're being picked on. So another great thing about these guys, besides them being a great dither fish, is they can actually help clean your aquarium a little bit. So these guys actually do eat a lot of the leftover food that your other fish don't eat. They can also help kick up any detritus that's settled at the bottom of your aquarium, and they can help sift through your substrate, particularly if you have like dirt or sand. So they're a great addition just for that as well. On top of that, they are once again also another super easy fish to care for. So as for the water parameters for these guys, you're going to want a temperature of about 22 to 26 degrees Celsius, which is about 72 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit. And you're going to want a pH anywhere between 6 to 7.5. So much like the other fish on this list, there is a variety of different Corydoras species, although most of them do like sort of the same water parameters. So those parameters should be fine for quite a few of the species. But yeah, with that being said, Corydoras catfish are definitely another great little dither fish for your aquarium. Moving on to the next species of fish on our list, we have one that's super similar to tetras, and that's barbs. So once again, there is a wide variety of different barb species out there. So there's big ones, there's small ones, there's colorful ones, there's dull ones. There's literally so many different types of barbs out there. And they are very fast moving and active as well, so they're great at diverting attention and aggression. So as for the water parameters for these guys, literally the exact same as everything else on this list. A temperature of about 22 to 26 degrees Celsius, which is about 72 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit, and a pH of about 6.5 to 7.5. These are another fish you do want to provide with plenty of swim space. So again, the plants are necessary, particularly if you want to bring out their beautiful coloration, but the swim space is also very vital because they are a big-bodied open water swimming fish. But yeah, with that being said, barbs are another great dither fish and I would highly recommend them. Moving on to the next species of fish on our list, we have another catfish, and that's bristlenose. So these guys are again one of my favorite dither fish just because they can deal with quite a lot of aggression. So these guys are heavily plated with armor. They're literally like as solid as a rock. And because of that, they can deal with quite a beating. So you don't want them being pounded every second, but they can definitely take quite a beating. So I actually recently did a video on bristlenose as well and why you should keep them. I'll leave that linked up the top. But being a dither fish was actually one of the benefits of keeping these guys. So they are a very active fish, and a lot of the time, as soon as you put them in your aquarium, the next day they'll be out eating, and that can encourage all sorts of other fish to come out, particularly if you have shy fish in there. So on top of being great dither fish, they are again a cleaner fish as well, just like the Corydoras, except these guys will also eat algae off surfaces in your aquarium. And another great thing about them is they're so easy to care for. So as for the water parameters for these guys, a temperature of about 22 to 28 degrees Celsius, which is about 72 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit. And you're gonna want a pH of about 6.5 to 7.5. But yeah, with that being said, bristlenose catfish are another great dither fish and I would highly recommend these guys. And then moving on to the final species of fish on our list, we actually have an Australian native. We have blue eyes. So I was gonna be a little bit sneaky and try and fit the rainbow fish and blue eyes together on this just because they're very similar. Although I thought, you know what, let's just keep blue eyes as on this list today. So blue eyes are basically like an Australian tetra. That's how I like to describe them, I guess. They come in a variety of colors. They have some very cool fins, particularly the males, and when they're trying to spawn, they show off some amazing colors and finnage. And they're actually a very fast moving and active fish as well, so they can draw a lot of attention on them. And my favorite thing about these guys, which I think is probably the favorite thing for a lot of people, but before I had these guys, I didn't actually realize how like blue their eyes were. I know that kind of sounds a bit ridiculous because their name is Blue Eye, but if you take a look at their eyes, they're like neon blue. It's pretty amazing, and they're a pretty cool fish to have. Some of the great things about these guys, obviously they're great dither fish, but they're very easy to care for, and here in Australia, you can keep a lot of the Australian species outside all year round as long as you're not getting too cold, and you can keep them indoors unheated as well. But for a lot of those, there's a few Papua New Guinea species that you do need to heat as well. And in my opinion, I like to keep them heated anyway. I do think they do very well in heated aquariums. They will still thrive in unheated, but I just prefer to keep them heated personally. So as for the water parameters, I'd recommend try and keep them in a temperature of about 24 to 28 degrees Celsius, which is about 75 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit. And you're gonna want a pH of about 6.5 to 7.5. And again, much like the tetras and the barbs, they do need a little bit of swim space because they are an open water swimmer, and you do want to keep them in schools of about 3 to 5. But yeah, with that being said, blue eyes are another great dither fish and I would highly recommend them for your aquarium. So that is actually going to bring us to the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope this video helps a few of you guys out. If you did enjoy today's video and you haven't done so already, please make sure to go down and subscribe, and while you're down there, smash the like button and comment your thoughts on today's video. I always love going down there and reading them all, and I try to reply back to as many comments as I can. Also, if you haven't done so already, make sure to go check out my website, aussiefishkeeping.com. I've got all sorts of live aquarium fish, botanicals, and a few other aquarium products up there. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you all so much for sticking around to the end, and I'll see you all in that next video.